Alright, so this weekend is Mother's Day weekend. So, in terms of movies coming out, we've got Life of the Party and Breaking In, two movies about mothers. One comedy, one thriller. And I try to watch everything, so I mean, I went and saw this because I have Movie Pass, so I didn't spend really anything on on this movie except my time. But in terms of as this movie goes, I think that this is definitely one of those incredibly cliched, just nothing new to the genre comedy, but there were moments in the movie where I'd laugh my ass off. I think that this I didn't laugh the whole time, mind you, but Life of the Party I did laugh a good amount to say that I liked it. But at first the movie was really painfully unfunny. Like there was nothing at first. I was sitting there like, wow, okay, these jokes are like terrible. But then there were some jokes that just because of the actors involved, like it made it funny. Melissa McCarthy in this movie, I think, is one of those actors that you like. I'm not on the fence about her. I'm just there are movies that I like her in. There's movies that I haven't really enjoyed her much in. And this one falls in the middle category where like she has a lot of funny things, but then there's a lot of times where she just has jokes that are so bad and so unfunny. Um, but I guess the bonus of this movie is that unlike a lot of her other movies, it's not it's not a joke that she's always fat in this movie, and I like that because there's a lot of jokes in Melissa McCarthy's stuff where it's just like, oh, I'm fat, so like I can't like just dumb stuff that like she makes like she's just overweight and that's the joke. And sometimes that could be funny, but she did it way too much. And to me, this one didn't do that, and I'm glad for that. And didn't really do the old thing either. Besides the fact that the stupid two bullies that were like, "Oh, you're old," because like the plot is about Melissa McCarthy goes back to college because her husband's divorcing her and goes back to college with her daughter who's going to graduate that year too. Um, so she goes back to college to finish her degree. And hilarity ensues with Melissa McCarthy. And there are some gags that I do enjoy in this movie, like silly ones that are brainless but fine. Like there's a lot of jokes where it isn't jokes that, like I said, that say that she's fat or anything, because she's done that too many times. But there's a lot of jokes where it's just her getting like abused, and not in the way you're thinking. Abused in which like you've seen this in the trailer. There's a scene where she grabs all of the stuff in the house, takes it all outside, puts lighter fluid on it, throws a lighter on it. The little explosion just throws her back onto the floor. Stuff like that. And that made me laugh because it was just so silly. And there are lines where she does have some legitimately funny things to say, but she isn't really the whole movie. Definitely the whole movie. She's not funny a lot of the time. But there are moments where I was like, okay, this is worth it. Some of these scenes were worth it. That court scene where she and her husband's new wife, and then Maya Rudolph, who's Melissa McCarthy's friend, that was a fantastically hilarious scene where it has them bickering against each other, but the person who is there with them says like, you got to talk to me to direct your qualms instead of talking to the actual person. And it was funny because they didn't stick to that. And Maya Rudolph in this movie, I love Maya Rudolph. She is hilarious. Like no matter what, she usually gets me. Like she just is hilarious. She's just one of those actresses where she can say anything and I'll just lose it. The reason why I wanted to see this movie in theaters was because of that scene in the trailer, of that scene with Melissa McCarthy against her husband and his new wife, and Maya Rudolph and her talking to them against really pissed off at each other. It's really funny. I love, and the scene I'm talking about, like the line I'm talking about, made me laugh every time I saw this in the trailer in the theater. Was whenever Melissa McCarthy is saying to her husband, I can't believe you brought her," and then the husband says, "I can't believe you brought Christine," and Christine, who's Maya Rudolph's character, says, "I can't believe you shacked up with a bitch." Like, it was hilarious because it's just how she says it made me lose it every time, and I lost it in the theater too whenever she said that line. And she had a lot of funny lines. Like, she is a really, for me personally, a really hilarious actress that always, no matter what, really gets me. Like it cracks me up. There's great scenes with her and her husband, and there's a hilarious scene where after Melissa McCarthy has sex with a kid like twice or 2 times younger than her in a library, she goes and calls Maya Rudolph, and then Maya Rudolph says to her husband that that she had sex in the library, and then she says, "Frank, why don't we have sex anywhere special?" And then he says, "Well, hon, that's because the last time we did, you blew your knee out, and I had to carry you out of Six Flags." And it was just so funny because it was so random. Like, I don't know, like it. These jokes in the movie, there are a lot of funny moments, but there are a lot of bad moments. It's not one that is. It's not a movie that's memorable. I'll forget it really quick. But in terms of just a brainless hour and 45 minutes, because the plot is very just nothing. There's not a plot really, besides the fact that she goes back to school because she's getting a divorce, and that's it. Literally no other plot. So for me personally, I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. A lot of people get on the Melissa McCarthy hate train, and I can see why. But and I'm not saying that it's not true for me, because there were a lot of scenes where I didn't laugh at all. They were painfully unfunny. But then there were some scenes where I laughed my ass off, and it was just like probably half the time I did, half the time I didn't. So overall, this is just a half and half movie where like it's got some funny performances in it, but it's really, really just nothing, like a nothing little movie that's been done a billion times. But I'm not mad about it. I got a couple little humorous things out of it. So overall, I just thought it was really utterly forgettable.